Hey guys, welcome to the cast.
Yep, back again for another week of what are we talking about this time, Ashton?
Yeah, so this time we got a topic that's been on my mind ever since the iPhone came out, really, I think. It's smartphones, cell phones,
Oh.
smartphones. Today we'll be talking about our experiences with growing up with phones, and then our current experiences and what we think the future might have in store for us with phones.
hmm
Yeah,
It's crazy to think that the iPhone, well, like the first iteration of it, came out a decade ago, or a little more than that, actually, right?
yeah, I was in middle school, and I remember my friend at the cross country team, he was showing everyone, and then people were pretty amazed. But I think it was at the iPhone 4 that it got really big.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because I think if I remember right, one of my close childhood friends, Rory, I would carpool with him, and I remember seeing his mom just basically doing everything on that iPhone 4, and I was like, what the? This is a computer and a
Yeah,
phone.
exactly. It can do everything.
That's genius. Why
Yeah.
didn't they do that earlier?
And like back then, we didn't even have laptops, so it felt like that was insane because we didn't have laptops.
I don't know about you, but I had a laptop.
All right. Well. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about our experiences growing up with just phones in general. Because for me, I think my mom had a cell phone. My sister eventually got one. I didn't get one until later, but we'd have a home phone, and that was the go-to device.
Oh yeah, dude. I remember back when we were kids, every time we wanted to set like anything up, we would call each other's house phones,
Yes,
and half the time it'd be like the mom picking up, and it'd be like, "Hey, can I, go play with Ashton or whatever?"
that's freaking great. I think I would call people and leave voicemails. People don't do that anymore.
Yeah, dude, because you got texting.
Yeah, so I think like you had to memorize people's phone numbers or like write them down, and
No, I
that was
remember.
quite something.
I remember the strat that I saw a lot of other families do, and I ended up doing this myself later. Was you would tape a phone book like to the wall right next to the phone, so then
Okay,
that way you can just like flip through it and be like, "Hey, here's all the numbers."
it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I think the thing that hit me the hardest about the whole there's two instances that hit me the hardest about smartphones and how fast they were changing, like my life. The first one was when my dad got BlackBerry. So I think
Mhm.
BlackBerry's is kind of on like the downward trend right now, but
Wait, they're still around?
yeah, they're still around.
What the f?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think, but it was like the first way you could check your email on the go. And my dad was
Oh yeah,
yeah,
people used email. I
yeah,
still use email
email.
only for. I only use it
Yeah,
for like professional things.
my dad was constantly on that. It was insane. Like we would go like to travel, and he'd just always be on his smartphone. I mean, sorry, BlackBerry. And then I was like, wow, this has the potential to really change people's lives. And he said that all his coworkers were doing that as well. Because once you get one person doing it and like a bunch of other people doing it, then since there's so many emails flying back and forth, that in turn makes everyone need to check more often.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then the second instance of it changing my life is when my sister got like an actual smartphone. It's some HTC phone for college, and she was constantly on that. Like it was insane. It was like her
Wait,
little
wait. So the
baby.
first time you just got like a phone that was like kind of the prototype of the modern day smartphone, she was already in college.
Yeah, it was freshman year of college.
Damn.
Yeah, it was the prototype. It was the one that came out before the iPhone 4S, even before the 4, I think. Yeah, it's some HTC phone. I don't know like the actual model, but
Yeah, dude,
yeah,
I don't know anything about like these old phones either.
that's crazy. Yeah. What about for you? Anything?
Yeah. So basically, it's like the same thing in terms of like the home phone thing,
Mm-hmm.
but where it kind of diverged for me is because my parents were very like anti-phone.
Oh,
So like, yeah, it was really annoying because I would see all my friends with like these phones that could just go online, and I'd just be like, "That's so useful!" Like, what the? And this was like me back in middle school when I had a. I don't even know what the phone was called. It wasn't even a flip phone. It was like one of those phones that like kind of split in half, and there was like a keyboard underneath.
oh,
Right,
it's
that's how they just use it for texting. But I never even really used that keyboard for like anything because I didn't have texting. My parents, they like our phone plan was only just the talk minutes, and they like that like texting was like gonna rot our minds or do whatever, and I guess it was really stupid, right? So that already like alienated me from like a lot of people at school because it's like,
okay.
well, like I'm not with the cool kids, I can't text anyone, right?
Yeah.
And I was always like just so annoyed by that, and the first time I finally got a like iPhone was like by the time I was like in high school, like sophomore year or something. Like before that, I was just using that like crappy little phone, and like I just had like an iTouch, which that's some nostalgia thing right there.
I remember that was a dream combo. It was like flip phone plus an iPod Touch. That was every kid's dream. Oh my god.
I don't know about you. That wasn't my dream because I knew about the iPhone. So I was like, but it was always annoying me. It's like I have two things like in my pockets that could have just been one. This is like stupid.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids they just like they couldn't afford the iPhone, right? Or they would get like their dad's old iPhone, but it'd be decommissioned, so it'd basically be an iPod Touch.
Oh my god. But no, also another thing that like the thing that really got me to start like really annoying my parents about this was so like back in late middle school, early high school, me and Ashton, we played a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, right? And obviously with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, it's a trading card game. The cards are gonna have prices that fluctuate all the time, and it's like impossible to memorize all of them. And then even then, like they change all the time. So like a lot of times I'd be making trades or like just whatever with the cards, I'd have to just kind of go like on a hunch, right? And there was a lot of times where I ended up like just getting like ripped off horribly because I couldn't look up the price for it, and it was like, oh, I feel like an idiot now. And then I get really mad about that and go back home. It's like, I just lost like $40 worth of just like Shonen Jump like exclusives because I subscribe to Shonen Jump and they give you free Yu-Gi-Oh cards sometimes. But yeah, it was really frustrating as a kid me who was like, these cards, they're worth a lot, right? Like if you'd like to lose out like on a $40 card, that's like, dude, we're in high school, that's some good money.
It's kind of interesting to think about that because with the advent of smartphones, so much data is accessible. Like the whole bartering scene, not just for like card games, but everything just transformed.
Oh yeah,
because you can't really get ripped off in the same way anymore because you just look it up. It's crazy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, the influx of data. Oh man. Okay, so are we ready to fast forward to today about cell phones, smartphones?
Oh yeah, the daytime when people are just whipping out their phones at every chance they can get, constantly on them Snapchats and Instagrams and whatnot. I feel like an old geezer because I just don't use a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, it's I think social media just went hand in hand with the smartphone, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, because like you can't have social media without the smartphone, really. I mean, you can with like Facebook and the laptop,
MySpace.
But yeah, but that's like not nearly as like what's the word I'm looking for? Prolific in day-to-day lives because you're not going to be at your laptop all the goddamn time unless you're one of those guys who just have your laptop all the time. But for the people who go outside, like ever since social media was like a thing on like these phones where people can just access it anywhere, right? You get a lot more just active lifestyle stuff, and just essentially you can start incorporating anything into it and not just the sedentary lifestyle stuff, right? And that's when you start seeing like all these Snapchat stories and Facebook posts about people doing camping or exercise or just like some whatever political thing because they're out on the streets or whatever. Like,
yeah, I think that's kind of the curse of it, right? Because now it's integrated in everything. It's so accessible now; it has to be in everything.
And it's hard to really detach from it now because it's such like ingrained part of our lives.
Yeah, like I know for Daniel and I were both in college, and there's been a lot of times I just see people walking around looking down at their smartphone. Like, isn't that interesting to think about? Like, they're not paying attention to their environment; they're just totally engrossed.
I mean, also remember that in people's day-to-day routines, if everyone takes the same commute all the time, they're eventually just going to get tired of said commute because they've already looked around everything. And so if you're like walking over to some place that you go to all the time and like you're no longer lost, having to go to that exploring stage, you're just gonna probably whip out your phone and check out what's going on. Because
okay, yeah,
like what's going on in the phone, right? Like you're gonna obviously see like a lot more happening in social media space than you would just looking around. And I'm not sure if that's like a causation or effect there, right? Because it's like, oh, nothing's happening around me because everyone's on their phone, or is it everyone's on their phone and then nothing's happening around me? Like which order is that? I have no idea what happened first there.
Yeah, it could make like the situation worse, right? It kind of spirals down because you see other people on their phones, and then you go on your phone, and then that in turn makes people do less, and it just keeps spiraling down.
Yeah, like public spaces are a lot more interesting now because like it was like to my understanding that like back in the day, if you just I'm sorry. If you go walk around downtown the city or whatever, right? Like, you'll see a lot more just things happening, right? Aside from just like the performers and stuff, which are still around today, like the street performers I'm talking about. Like, you could, hear people talking about like whatever thing, right? And like, it's basically just a lot more like spontaneous, right? And then as we've moved into, the time of smartphones, right? Like, the public space is a lot less eventful. It's a lot more, just people going about their business, like, and usually that business is just walking somewhere to get to where they need to be. And then because of that, well, like, if you're just doing that, what's a little harm in checking your phone, right? Seeing what's going on if you're used to that trail, like I was talking about, if that's your commute. And if everyone's doing that, then, the rat race just becomes normal there, right?
Yeah, and it's so easy to check your phone. And the information never ends, because if you're on social media, you could just keep scrolling forever. Like, the fun never ends, I guess.
Is it really fun, though?
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's like, it's kind of like fast food entertainment, right?
Because I feel like at like past a certain point, and I remember reading like a study about this somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, if you scroll for like too long on Facebook and you're getting down like, on the news feed, like if you've been on there for like 30 minutes, like at some point everything just kind of just blurs together in your mind, and you just kind of like, just either stop caring or just get like really distanced from like what you're seeing.
Okay.
Like there's like this weird like cap that most people hit without realizing it, but it's still just like, oh, like I want to see what's going on, so they go through it anyways.
Yeah. Have you had like that feeling that after you do scrolling or something of the sort, you feel tired, but not really?
Oh no, yeah, that's a common phenomenon actually. I remember in that same study I just talked about, and I wish I could source it here, but I keep on reading shit off Reddit without like remembering where it came from. Okay. But I do not worry. This is pretty fucking cool shit.
Okay.
This study was also saying like, oh, like when they looked at like habits of people doing this, right? When you just aimlessly scroll down a newsfeed without looking for anything in particular, you are actually like propagating this kind of like aimless, like purposelessness in yourself without like really realizing it. And that in turn is what leads to a lot of like sad, depressive, or just like self-doubting thoughts. Right? Especially because if you don't have like a tangible goal there and you're just scrolling constantly, right? Not only does that going to soak up a lot of time of your day and like nothing's really happening with it, you get the sense that, oh, like everyone else is doing shit or things are happening and I'm just sitting here doing nothing.
Okay. Wow. I had a different idea in mind. I was just saying that you're just taking in so much information, you're constantly scanning.
No, but that's tiring because,
exactly.
But
it's not
it's a pretty active like thing that your mind's doing as you're like, perusing all this stuff you just see on like, social media.
Yeah. All right, let's go back to smartphones. So I know it's really tempting to just completely talk about social media. I think we could.
That's kind of interesting how we're able to do that though, right? Because
Yeah.
social media is like so tied into our smartphones. That's like essentially like our smartphones are almost, they're just like social media machines, like in a way.
It's funny.
Like most
yeah.
apps on them.
If you think about it, it's not really for its original use now, right? Original use is calling, but people.
Yeah, but why call when you can just, Facebook Messenger? Like, dude, the voice chat quality on a lot of these social media sites, apps, or whatever, is straight up better than your telephone like lines. It's like I'm really dumbfounded by this. It's like almost like what the hell is the point of calling people? If I'm like going through a phone interview or whatever, like the quality's all choppy, it like pisses me off. Voicemail is like just stupid. Why not just leave a message? Or text message, I should say, because leaving messages, voicemail. But the point I'm trying to say is, yeah, like the original design or purpose of the phone is honestly outdated. It's just like, dude, just use, whatever platform you're using instead of using the actual phone lines.
Yeah, so that brings me to the question, do you think everyone has to have a smartphone? Is it something that's recommended, or is it just a luxury?
I would say it is a necessity. It is so ingrained with our day-to-day lives at this point that it is on the level of a utility and not just like, an entertaining luxury item.
So why is it a necessity? Is going on social media a necessity?
I won't say social media like going on itself is a necessity, but in terms of like actually interacting with our modern day world,
Yeah.
and being an active participant who is knowledgeable about the workings of our world and able to participate and relate to others like on, interpersonal, just human levels, then yes, it is absolutely necessary to just function in society nowadays. Because it has ingrained itself into our society, right? Like, it happens with any new technology.
Have
Like, when you look at...
Have you heard of the dumb phone revolution?
The dumb phone I have not heard of this.
Okay, so it's essentially people nowadays, they go back to using flip phones and like Nokia phones, old school stuff, because they want to distance themselves from the whole smartphone thing. And they said that they've had tremendous benefits. So what do you think about those guys?
What do you think about those guys? Well, I mean, I'm not going to deny that, like, for some people that probably is going to be a huge benefit because there are a lot of people out there who spend a little too much time on their phones and on social media.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of like when you see any of those movements about, like, people trying to, get some self-control, right? Like, when it's like, oh, like, I don't know, like Alcoholics Anonymous or like r/nofap, right? Like, a lot of times you look at those things and it's like, it's easy to joke about them, but like for a lot of people, that's like a very serious problem for them, right? So if it like really is like a beneficial thing to just like cut yourself off from it entirely, then by all means go for it, right? But for anyone who's using it in moderation, then it's like completely fine and probably helps for a lot of just, day-to-day things.
So what would be considered moderation in terms of smartphone use?
In terms of smartphone use, just like you basically use it as a means to an end, not, or a means, let me reword that. You use it as a means to do something, not as the means to the end itself, right? So if like I'm on my phone, I want to be able to use it to like set up things with my friends and then meet up with them in person and, hang out or whatever. And maybe when we're hanging out, like I'll occasionally whip it out, show them a dumb YouTube video or funny, GIF or whatever, right? But like, it shouldn't be like I'm always on it, looking at what my friends are doing. And then when I meet with them, we're all on our phones anyways, right? Then that's just like, that's dumb. Like, what the hell is the point of meeting up then?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about appropriate smartphone use because this was a really big thing when my sister went to college. From my experience, I feel like it's gone better, but people would eat together, but they'd all be on their phones. So yeah.
That's definitely reaching the levels of maybe a little too much. But oddly enough, I've actually found that like, okay, like you can actually get away with doing that and still be like pretty interactive because like I've seen people do that and they're all like playing a phone game together or something.
Yeah,
or maybe
that's
just like
fine, right?
Yeah, but like if everyone's just like all checking their own thing, like I only really understand that if it's like, like dinners and you've been hanging out like all day and you're just kind of tired and just chilling, right? Like, okay, sure, that makes sense. You could just all sit together, just, relax. You don't have to talk to each other because you've already been doing all this crap like for the entire day. But like if you're just like, habitually doing that, as in like, oh, like whenever you meet up, you just, you go out for boba and you just sit down and everyone's on their phones, then it's like, well, what kind of, personal connection are you looking for here, right? This is just nonsense.
Okay.
Like nothing's gonna come about of that, right?
Yeah, so I know you mentioned that people are watching YouTube videos together on their phones, right? So wouldn't that only require one smartphone?
Well, the thing is, smartphones, they're kind of like a private, thing for yourself, right? Like you don't like just go and like go through someone else's smartphone. So yeah, while you only really need one smartphone to, a lot of times people have like playlists or like, whatever video they have on their mind. And like when some guy is like showing a video on their phone, another guy is like, looking up the video he's thinking of on like his phone. And you just kind of just, push phones back and forth, right? Because I don't know, people are more used to doing that. Like where they like do something on their own phone rather than asking someone else to do something on their phone. And honestly, that's a little more efficient if you ask me, because sometimes you're not like quite familiar how to work someone else's phone, or sometimes you tell them to type this one thing, they're like, wait, what? Like, can you say that again? Like, can you spell that or whatever? Right? It's honestly just faster if you just say, fuck it, I'm just gonna whip out my own phone and just do it myself.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I feel like you might not exactly be giving them the full attention, but I think it's inevitable, right?
I mean, yeah, I think that happens with a lot of just like, it's like the format, like, or the medium, I should say. Like, if it's anything that's like a video where you just show it to someone, like, I don't think most people are like paying attention to something like for the entirety of it, unless it's like, like a 7-second long clip or something. Like, most of the time, when people are looking at something, they're probably like thinking about some other thing, right?
Okay.
Like, yeah, because when I say that, it's like, dude, like, and I think you like see this a lot in just I guess the lecture environment where I like, you know, when I look around, right, or even just in movies, like too, like some like people just like sometimes just miss things like randomly, you know, like it's like, you know, you're obviously gonna know like the majority of whatever the hell it is that you're watching, but like just the nature of it being passive, as in like you're not interacting with it in any way, just seems to make it so that you just don't remember the entirety of it. Like you remember a lot of it if you really were paying for attention for all of it. And I even find this happening like with myself. Like my friends would be like talking about like say I don't know like Infinity War. They'll bring up like some random detail, and it's either like it sounds like familiar, but it's like wait, I don't actually remember that, but like that sounds right.
Could you also argue that it's because you only did it once?
Maybe, yeah, that too. I feel like, you know, yeah, that's why like, you know, when you're studying for stuff in school, you gotta like look over your notes over and over again and then really hammer it in your brain. You know, you don't just look at it once and remember it unless you're like, I don't know, like a photographic memory genius, Sherlock Holmes autistic guy.
Okay, all right. So going back to appropriate smartphone use, how much do you think people should be using their smartphone? Because I think I saw something. I think the average American looks at their phone 100 times a day, and they use it for, let me see what I have written down, 4.7 hours a day on their smartphone, on average.
4.7?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that number could be fine. It really just depends on what you're doing on your smartphone, right? If like all that was just spent just scrolling down on Facebook or Instagram, it's probably not the best usage of time. But if a lot of it was used for like, you know, like talking with friends or something, like say like, you know, one of those guys who just has like your phone open and like you got like Messenger buzzing like going off constantly and like, you know, there's like 9 people you're just talking to at any given time, like that's pretty cool. It's like you're talking to like tons of people that you wouldn't normally be able to do, right?
That's true.
I don't really think there's a lot of problem with that unless like you were working or something and during all that like time you're working you're just on your phone or something. But like
I think as long as you're not infringing on your real life interactions, right? Like I don't.
Yeah, because you know I
like a,
yeah, it's like you're saying, right? Like the infringing thing. Yeah, it's like when you say not infringe, right? I'm taking that as in like, oh, it should be like, you know, supplementary to your social life, shouldn't replace it, right? Or overtake it. I don't think it really replaces it for anyone. That's like an exaggeration because I don't want to like go and like start like a doomsday thing, like, oh yeah, smartphones are gonna end us all. This is the most evil crap, and it's rotting our brains. I'm more the like mentality that's like, oh, it's like kind of overtaking a lot of aspects. It's not like, you know, completely just like taking over everything. It's just kind of like, oh, it's there and it's a big presence.
Yeah.
But it's not like, you know, a like totality of like control or whatever.
Okay, yeah, I think smartphone etiquette was just something that people weren't well adjusted to, but now it's getting better. People know that it's rude, right?
I guess, yeah, but it's kind of bizarre because, like, when you compare people are like us, right, who've grown up without it, and then, like, are kind of, you know, thrust into that world versus people who've grown up with it,
yeah,
the, like, etiquette and mannerisms, all that, like, they fluctuate wildly. Right, because with us, we're used to a different standard, and we try to incorporate that standard, you know, into this new medium. Whereas people who are born into the new medium are gonna just have their own standards because that's the norm for them. So, like, a lot of people that, like I've talked to about this, when they're talking about their cousins or siblings or whatever over like Christmas dinner, and like if the siblings are just when I say siblings, I'm talking people who are like in middle school right now, or maybe like high school, like, you know, right? Like they don't really find it that rude to be on like, you know, on the phone all the time with each other, or like they'll like be like sending messages to each other like in the same like room without saying anything to each other, you know, like on their iPads or whatever.
But isn't that kind of messed up?
I think to us it's messed up, but maybe for them it's like, this is fine. But I do think it's like, oh, like you still need to make sure that you know how to talk to people, because, you know, I don't think we're ever gonna, as humans, like go beyond the point of like completely throwing out the need to just physically talk to people, because like we're hardwired that way. We got some monkey brain like crap going on, like, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I'm kind of worried about like the amount of social skills you could get as a kid, because if you're constantly on your phone or like playing a game or whatever, and you're not really interacting with a friend, it might hurt you in the long run.
But that's the thing, though, right? Because if everyone grows up like that, then is it really that bad?
Well, then
like,
those kids, when they go in the workforce, it might be hard to get a job. because the workforce is going to be older than them.
Yeah, but think about how like the workforce is also going to change, right? Like think about like remember like the whole like oh millennials are like ruining the workforce because like you know a lot of people are like complaining about like the new workforce being you know like too techie or savvy or whatever. And, like they have all these like complaints that are similar to what we're saying about like oh they're on their phones too much, and now we're equating that to them.
Yeah.
Right. So you see what I'm saying? Because like to us it might seem like too much, and then to them it might just seem fine. So like that standard that we like compare ourselves to like is again like a different generational thing. So I don't know. I personally think that when it comes to the workforce, like by the time these kids are going to grow up, the workforce is going to be you know comprised of people like us who are like kind of more familiar with the idea of like people constantly on their phones. But we might be a little surprised by oh they're on their phones like all the time. Maybe you got to tone that down a bit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like I think there might be different definitions of extremes per generation, right?
Yeah, exactly. But so like I don't think it's like going to be that bad in terms of like finding a job or whatever, because it's like oh like we know what's up. Like by the time we're like 30 and 40 controlling the workforce, like you know we like we're familiar with this stuff. It's not like we went through like I don't know TV and radio and everything and then internet. It's just we went through internet at a pretty young age, right? We were born into the internet, right? Because the internet was around in the 1990s. It's just that it wasn't mainstream, obviously.
It was like dial-up, right?
Yeah, it wasn't mainstream, obviously, but like I don't know. In my experience, you know, I was using the internet since I was like 7 or 8, and it kind of just ruined school for me.
I remember doing a lot of email. That was the first social media for me. Because you'd have Yahoo Mail with all the avatars and like little games you could play. All right, so
oh yeah,
yeah, it's really dumb. Essentially a big waste of time. But okay, let's talk about on an individual level. So should you have your phone with you all the time? Should you take a break sometime? Like what's the balance there? Because sometimes I feel like oh I could just leave my phone in the car, it's chill.
Wait, really? Wait. Talk about that. What? Like, I don't really know many people who just like leave their phone in the car.
Yeah, if I'm like going to dinner or something, it's just like, yeah, I don't need my phone. Just leave it in the car. But
that's it. Like,
yeah, I guess like I got that from something online. I think if you're really like addicted to like smartphone use and you want a hard break from that, then that's like a hard fix.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but for me it was just like I never check my phone anyways while I'm eating or doing whatever. So I mean, I guess it wasn't really a hard fix. It was just whatever to me. For context, my phone is a smartphone that's essentially a dumb phone. Only thing I use it for besides calling and texting is music. Occasionally YouTube. But I don't have data.
Oh, yeah, right. You don't have data. That's a game changer.
Yeah, that's a game changer. And now my email doesn't work either. For some reason. It'll just crash every time I try to do it.
Yeah, I don't really know how like applicable your situation with the phone usage is if you don't have data. You know, that's like kind of like a big deal in terms of people using like all their social media apps.
I've never experienced like having data. So it's a bit hard to like speak out from like a typical 20-year-old perspective, huh?
Yeah, you're definitely the anomaly here.
All right. So
yeah, I would personally never leave the phone in the car. Right? I think like when it comes to you know the usage or whatever, how much is too much. Like that's up to the individuals to decide. That's like because phones inevitably as a technology that enables so much, you know, enables freedoms, right? But also those freedoms are also like kind of things you have to self-manage. Otherwise, they kind of turn into like these weird restrictions you put on yourself because you can't control yourself.
You don't want to go wild with it.
But like for some people, wild is like, you know, like 8 hours. And for me, wild is, you know, maybe, like 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
Like,
and then you could say
just
that
really,
having your phone on you is a means of security as well. Because you could always...
Yeah, I always take my phone on me because it's just like I can check the time. If people are messaging me, I can like look at it. Like if there's like a dull in a conversation at any point. Like I'm not like the type of guy to have the phone out constantly, but I definitely do pull it out like, you know, every now and then while just like eating or talking to people or whatever.
Yeah, now that I think about it, leaving your phone in the car might be a bad idea in case someone wants to reach you.
Yeah, that is definitely a dumb idea. What the hell? The whole point of a phone is this like, oh, you put it in your pocket and now you're connected all the time. So you just disconnect yourself for like X amount of time for no reason.
Okay. Yeah, it's really interesting though. Like I would recommend trying it out just once. It's I don't
I
know.
mean,
Yeah.
it's not like I haven't done that, because there are times where I'm like a dumbass and I'm just like, oh god, I just forgot my phone. Like,
Oh.
it's not the end of the world, but it definitely is way more inconvenient, because like now, if like, say if like I'm doing some sort of like event, or like I'm at a club or whatever, and I plan to meet up with some people afterwards, and it's like I can't really talk with them to confirm what's going on, so I just have to pray for the best.
Okay. Old school style, right? It's like I don't know where we're meeting up. Let's just pray.
Yeah, because when think about how this has affected how we like actually interact with each other on a day-to-day basis, right? So before we had smartphones, people would have to set up a set time and a set place, and that typically wouldn't change, right? Because if you didn't show up, then it's like, well, shit, like how do I contact the guy? I have to go all the way back to my house or whatever, right? So nowadays, because people have phones, people are a lot more lenient with times and places. A lot of times people are just like, hey, want to hang out? Yeah, sure. And then like nothing's decided. It's kind of just like maybe 2 hours later, it's like, hey, we're going to go to this place. It's like, okay. And then people end up flaking or like being late by like 30 minutes. It's like, oh yeah, I'm like on the way or whatever.
Yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like if you like back in the day, like let's just like bring up a situation if like you're going with the girl on a date, right? And if she flakes, dude, that sucks because you have no idea whether or not she flaked. Like, is she late? Did she flake? Like, did she get hurt on the way? You don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess now it's a bit more ease of mind. Is that the right word? It's a bit more ease of event planning. So,
I mean, I guess it is an ease of mind in some cases, but the reason why I'm kind of going like iffy on that is because like, if anything, it also makes it a little more anxiety inducing because of the fact that like if nothing is planned, you're kind of just constantly on your phone again, because you have to make sure it's like you're like, what the hell is going on, and you're just on your phone throughout the entire duration until everything's confirmed.
Okay.
Which is a little bizarre.
Like, more like information being sent over phone, you have to check it more.
So like basically if you want to do something with your friends and nothing is established, then you have to, it's like one of those like self-fulfilling circle things, like, oh, like I have to be on my phone more now because of this, like it's like, god damn it.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny, like if you're in a grocery store, you're looking for your friend, you just call them.
Yeah.
Or like your mom.
Straight up.
Yeah, but back in the day, you just have to walk around the entire store. Once my mom, like, she asked the cashier to say on the intercom, like, looking for her son. Now she could just call me.
Dude, I remember back in the day, me and my friends, like, this was like in middle school, we would just yell over the aisles. People were like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Or these kids? Actually, you're kids. Like, honestly, you can get with a lot of dumb things.
We're kids, yeah. I mean, you're not even 18 either, and I feel like 18 is still a kid.
That's something that I feel like a lot of kids are missing out nowadays. It's just that, like, oh, like, you're a kid. You can do a lot of really retarded shit in real life, and no one will give a fuck. But, like, if you're on your phones all the time, you're really missing out on a lot of that.
Yeah, you should take, like, more risks. So, is there anything you want to bring up before we move on to the future of phones?
To the future of phones?
And that's going to be entirely speculative.
Yo, I want to talk about the future of phones. Come on, let's go to the future of phones.
Okay, so kind of linked to that is Pokemon Go. Right? Ooh. I feel like that's something we have to bring up. Because Pokemon Go completely changed phone use. And that's not exactly the future, but it's like AR, right? Augmented reality. And
I'm surprised AR hasn't taken off more than VR. You'd think that would happen considering how much easier it is, but I guess people are so like, tunneling on VR. That's I don't know. I don't know what the deal with VR is, but like, why are we not doing AR? But yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think AR has more potential, but having the right idea still has to be like worked out. But
I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with it. Like already you saw Pokemon. That's a great idea. You can do some Yu-Gi-Oh crap. Like that would work for AR. Like most games, I would say you can actually do an AR. Honestly, like even like those like Clash of like Clans, like Titans or whatever the hell. Like you can just do something where it's like, oh, like you can just like have your phone camera looking at your table and like there's like a grid that pops up with like all your units, and like AR works for like so many things. You just gotta throw it in there.
Are you saying like projecting images off your phone?
They're not projecting, like, because AR is just like, oh, you look at the phone camera and it's like something's going on in your phone, but not in reality. So like, yeah, like say if you were to play, Yu-Gi-Oh on your phone, and there's like this thing on it where it's like, oh, like both people who are playing Yu-Gi-Oh, they gotta have their phones out, like looking at each other with the camera, right? But like on their cameras, they can see like all the monsters, like out, and like on the like cards, like on the field or whatever. right? And you obviously don't see that in real life, but like
Yeah.
that's like how
Instead of-
Pokemon Go worked, right? Like you saw the
Okay,
Pokemon
yeah.
on your phone, but not in real life. That's AR.
Okay, yeah. I mean, AR is insane. There's so many ways you can go with it.
I think I first found out about AR through my 3DS. Actually, it wasn't through Pokemon Go.
Okay.
Because
yeah.
Nintendo, and actually that makes a lot of sense that Nintendo did Pokemon Go, because they're the only ones who are really, to my knowledge, really like putting their money in AR and not just VR, right?
Okay.
Like with the 3DS when it came out, one of the like new features they showed off with it was like, hey, you can do 3D, camera like pictured whatever the heck's on this, but there's also a 3D AR game. I'm like, what is AR? And I tried it, I was like, oh, this is hilarious and amazing. Like they have like these dumb like little mini games on there, where it's just like you have to kind of sit still in a chair and like move around, like pointing your 3DS at like random things, because like how the game works, it's like, okay, like you as like the player, like in the center of like some like arena or a thing, and like you just like look around, right, and like things are like happening, like say like you're getting charged by like some enemies, and you have to just like press A to like shoot them or whatever.
All right, let's go back to phones. All right, so
Yeah.
Hardware wise, what do you think is the future for phones? Because we're at that point where the cameras are so good, like it's pretty insane what you can do with such a small sensor. So I think that's pretty much set, right? Like how much better could you get?
I mean, I don't think like the camera is like the big focus here, because a lot of people who use phones aren't really the most like camera savvy.
It just has to be
right?
decent,
Like they just
right?
kind of, it just has to be usable. Like literally, they can just take like a selfie themselves. Like that's not shitty, and that's all they really care about.
Okay, so I think in that regard, it's kind of capped.
Like in that regard, when phone cameras are being innovated, like that's not really the main focus here. Like it's nice, obviously, but I think for the majority of people, they're not really going to care about that. Like it's just kind of like there, right? What I think is going to happen with phones in terms of how they innovate and go to the future. First of all, I think Pokemon Go actually started a big demand for battery life. So that's like one thing I'm pretty sure is going to happen, where people are going to start wanting phones that like don't need to be charged every day. And the next thing I think is, hilariously enough, actually, even though I just shadow over VR, is VR. Because the thing about VR is that, like, okay, if it ever does get to the point where it's accessible to people, then it's absolutely going to revolutionize and change like everything that we do. But at the moment, it's not like that, because it has a high barrier of entry, right? No one wants to go and shell out like X $100,000 to get like VR headset and a kit and all that.
Yeah,
but
so
phones have kind of...
Yeah, are you saying that phones will come with a kit?
I'm saying that phones can definitely bridge that gap a lot better than buying, like a headset. Because I don't think most people who don't play games want to buy like a, full-fledged headset. But they're much more willing to buy something like Google Cardboard, right? So in that sense, what we're going to see with phones, I think, is going to be phones with better battery and phones that just have, better power behind them, so that they can start running crazier things. And maybe like they'll get even bigger so that they can fit better over your face. Because I think it's kind of hilarious how we're seeing how phones have gone through this phase of like, oh, at first they got really, really small. And people are like, wait, what the hell? This is too small. And now they got big again.
Now they're really big.
Now people are going like, okay, maybe this is a little too big. So we were saying like, nah, it's fine. So now we're at like this crossroads where people are like kind of like, split in between where they think it's too big or too small. Yeah, but at that point, you can kind of go either way, and it doesn't really matter, because there's going to be an audience for whatever you're doing with that.
Yeah, I think now they're having a medium-sized phone and like a big phone, so you can pick one or the other.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, it's like, I guess whether or not you put it in your pocket. Yeah, I don't know. So do you think there's anything like besides those that'll happen for phones? Because I know there's 2 screens in this phone that was just coming out. So it's essentially, it's kind of like there's like one screen on the front and one screen on the back. And you can fold it, and then 2 screens will create one giant screen. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But I don't know. That's kind of gimmicky,
It feels
right?
a little more gimmicky, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because the ones that I brought up are like the things I feel like, like make sense. But another problem with trying to make predictions about the future in general is that we never have all the pieces to like look at it and like the full picture. Yeah. Right.
We're not in
because what ends up happening with like speculating about future technology a lot of times is that a lot of the innovations that come into play aren't things that actually have been invented yet. Meaning that we don't actually have like a good basis of like, oh, like, because there's gonna be something we didn't consider or whatever. Like as an example for this, like, radio. I'm gonna go back way really far here. Radio was never intended for broadcasting. It was just thought to be like a one-to-one communication thing. But then some guy was like, "Wait, I can just leave this thing running, and a lot of people can pick up on it." And I was like, "Wait, that's genius! You have one guy saying a bunch of shit to like everyone. Whoa!" Right? Like just all these like uses we don't think of. Right? So, like the things I'm talking about are stuff that we currently are focusing on, like the battery life and the VR or whatever, and like I guess stronger phones.
So near future.
But yeah, exactly. That's something that's based on like relative like contemporary stuff, not the like fucking predictable innovations are gonna happen in a few years that no one really considered.
Okay, all right. So we'll just keep it in the next couple years sort of time frame.
Yeah, it's more important, I would say, now to have more of like an open mind and also to really understand what we currently have than it is to like predict stuff in the future.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking what would make someone want to upgrade their phone? Because phones are expensive.
At the moment, it's not actually about phone specs. It is more about the marketing behind them. People are like, "Oh, I gotta get the new iPhone. I gotta get the new Galaxy." What's hilarious about technology, and we've seen this happen, all across history, is that you will see like these crazy, genius, beautiful inventions. Like these are like crazy innovations that are like just objectively better. Like they're just like improvements in any way, no one can really deny that, and then they still flop because people are idiots and don't know how to use them. So when it comes to making like sweeping changes in society to the masses, like the common person, they're really just not informed on whatever the hell the new tech is going to be. And so you have to convince them. And how do you do that? You usually do it in layman's terms, which in this case is like, oh, Apple marketing, sleek, new, shiny, iPhone, yeah.
Ads.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So like, it's kind of hilarious because it's like, oh, well, it's not really, like, it doesn't matter how good the product is. What really matters is public perception of it. That's literally all that anyone cares about, right? Because that's how the public sees it.
Yeah, and that's what's going to get people to go in your store and start looking at it.
Yep. It's kind of like, oh, you kind of have to, like, dumb down whatever innovations you're making to, be able to, like, compute with the everyday person. And that's, like, an infuriating gap for, like, a lot of people who are really smart because they, like, make all these crazy things. And then it's like, that's not gonna fly. And then we also have to, like, have people working in UI, like, as a field on its own just because, like, they have to really figure out how to make sure retards can use, like, their stuff. Like, UI is one of those things you think wouldn't be like as big of a field as it is right now, but it is astonishing how important that is when it comes to making anything.
That makes sense, yeah. Because I mean, you're also looking at it all the time, so it has to be aesthetically pleasing.
Well, it's not just that; it also has to be like user friendly or whatever, right?
Yeah,
so like, a lot of Windows 10's like new redesigns came about because they literally went into a bunch of, I think, just retirement homes. And they would just literally sit there watching old people use Windows 10. Okay, and they would take notes on what the hell was happening, what they got stuck on, and design a lot of the interface around that. Which obviously is going to be infuriating if you're someone who's been using computers all the time anyways, and then things get put in really bizarre spots that like you don't think of, but for some reason older people do.
I guess if you're more tech savvy, it's quicker to like adjust.
It is quicker to adjust, but still, like, what the hell?
Wow. All right. I think that's it for this podcast. Then I think we hit a lot of points.
Wait, we're already at 45 minutes. What the?
Yeah. Time. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. It was like last time I checked, it was like 30 minutes. And now it's already almost 45. So yeah. Any closing thoughts? Smartphones are really they're here to stay, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah, I think that's kind of a figure. Like, I don't think people are gonna suddenly go into the streets and protest, and be like, "Yeah, destroy our smartphones, smash this society." It's like, no, these things connect us. They empower us. They let us actually go out into the streets and start telling everyone to start smashing their smartphones. Like, you wouldn't be able to do that without smartphones.
Yeah, and that's how you get all those like dumb videos too, right? Because everyone can just record whenever. I feel like that's really cool.
Yeah, it's freedom.
It's freedom.
It is. It is a connected network, yes.
Just
But it is also kind of scary because, goddamn it, Zuckerberg, stop listening to me through Messenger. I have my phone right there. I know you can hear us talking about this podcast. We still love you, though, but we also hate you. But we mostly hate you. Actually, I don't know about that. What do you think about Mark Zuckerberg? You hate him or love him?
Oh, gosh. That's a podcast in itself, I think. All right, well, I think we will catch you guys next week. Yeah, all right. Thanks for listening. And this is Ashton.
And this is Daniel signing off.
See
you guys all have a good day.